Hello, what's up? I'm going to be covering a article by psychologist twenge. For context, I had to do an English test on this, pick it apart, basically analyze it, and it made me so frustrated that when I got home, I did the equivalent of writing a strongly worded letter. And so basically, I'm going to be picking apart this article for the trash it is. Now, first to start, I'll basically tell you a few things. First, this is a picture of Jean Twenge. Wait, oh, sorry, I got those confused. This is a picture of Jean Twenge. She did a TED talk, and uh, her book iGen is where this article is founded. This is like a snippet from iGen. Now, the general idea of this article is that students are reading less and they're screwed for the future. They're saying that they will harm them in the future. The thing is while the main idea of this article is like the least controversial opinion ever, they still managed to make it so stupid by like favoring their biases and ego over actual logic. And so I'll be picking this apart. Now, the first thing I want to pick apart, and this is the thing that led me to making this, it's what tipped me off to the biases, is literally one paragraph. I'm highlighting the paragraph now. Now, the author here, okay, decided to mention this study from the Pew Research Center that sort of takes apart her point, saying that young people actually read more books than older people, but for some reason the author decides to completely discredit this because it doesn't include pleasure reading. Now, if you're wondering, what does pleasure reading mean? Well, apparently to the author, it's a book, newspaper, or magazine that wasn't assigned for school. And so this is what tipped me off to the several biases. I even wrote like a whole section about this specific part over here. And it's what made me look at this through a new lens because the bias for older people is so abundant, okay? And you see, what this article or research proves is that perhaps the way her generation was reading stuff was perhaps a bit flawed, or two, perhaps as you got older, your generation moved to technology with the younger generations, and that's why reading has decreased on your part. And yet, for some reason, you discredit this by just saying, oh, well, it doesn't filter for pleasure reading, which is a really dumb thing because school reading is still reading, you know? Like, if I'm reading something, I am still reading it. It does not matter if I am doing it for pleasure or for school. I am still reading it, okay? And for the points that this article tries to make by using pleasure reading, it completely dismantles any credibility because pleasure reading and school reading, they can coincide, they can interfere with each other, you know? I don't have infinite time in my day. If I have to read something for school, I'm going to need to prioritize that for my education over, reading something for pleasure. And if I'm being honest, if I spend a ton of time reading something for school, I would rather do something that's bit simpler, a bit more engaging to me than pleasure reading. The reason that your generation read more is because of necessity. That was the only option you had. If you're at a buffet with two options, you're obviously going to eat more of one singular option. But if you're at a different buffet with 20 options and the vast majority happen to be seafood, you're going to be eating a lot less Mexican. And this article fails to take into account in many of its points the necessity and accessibility of the things it's comparing uh, us to make its points. Now, the first or second point, shall I say, that I want to tackle is students won't be ready for university. Over here, it uses this analogy. Imagine going from reading two sentence captions to trying to read even 5 pages of an 800-page college textbook in one sitting. This is inherently false. It strives from the poor research and prioritizing and emphasizing pleasure reading. You're not going from two captions to an 800-page college textbook. You're going from grade 12 English to an 800-page college textbook. Academic reading is supposed to prepare you for, guess what, more advanced academic reading. Don't compare my pleasure reading to what I'll be reading academically. I'm already reading enough, and I've already gone to practice from what I was assigned from English class. That was supposed to prepare me for this 800-page college textbook. People are already assigned this stuff. It's part of the school curriculum. You can't say that they're going from two sentence captions to 800-page college textbooks because they're not. They are already reading plenty in their academic classes. The fact that you're trying to paint it as two captions is all we ever read is not true. It's maybe what some people read for pleasure, but why are you using what we're reading for pleasure and comparing that to what we should be reading academically at the next level at that? It's not a good point. It is fundamentally flawed because it does not include grade 9, 10, and 11, 12 reading, which prepares you for that. Now, forgive me if there's a bit of repetition in this. This is sort of a rant, but also at the same time, it's sort of just trying to take down these points. But I have to reiterate that not including grade 9, 10, 11, 12 reading in your analogy and your research is really misleading the reader because they are reading a lot, okay? And perhaps they just want to consume something simpler in their free time, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with needing to read a 600-page book like in a week and wanting to do something a bit simpler just to relax. There's nothing wrong with that, and saying there's something wrong with that is really disingenuous, and it really shows the biases of this article. Now, I am 8 minutes in so far, and I haven't even got to my second point. Now, my second point will be illustrating how biased this article is essentially, and how it constantly compares our generation, like Gen Z, to like the author's generation, Gen X. So over here, I've compiled a list of quotes. Sorry that they're all on a Google Doc. I just don't want to have to scroll through the article. And I'll read these all out. And it's all comparing teens now to teens then. Most of us spend more time with digital media than we did a decade ago. Comparison from now to then. Teens didn't always spend that much time with digital media. Again, while 70% of 8th and 10th graders once went to the movies 1 month or more, now only half do. And an enormous decline in reading. In 1980, 60% of 12th graders said they read a book, newspaper, or magazine every day that wasn't assigned for school. All of this is trying to compare what we have now to what you had then, which is not fair. Situations change, the environment changes, okay? if you put a teen in a situation, their environment is going to shape what they do. Let's say they're bored. If they have access to different options of entertainment, they may not choose the one you chose when you only had a handful. Now, this article is a bit messy in its narrative that teens suck. Oh my god, they are so stupid. Wow. Because I'm gonna take a quote and it's gonna be about teens then, and I'll compare that to what it thinks about that for teens now. Of course, teens are reading. They're just reading short text and Instagram captions. By the way, the use of Instagram captions so often really shows the author's age. Anyways, not long form articles that explore deep themes and require critical thinking and reflection. It is bad and awful when we do it, but let's take a look at how this same thing is presented when they did it 40 years ago. An enormous decline in reading. In 1980, 60% of 12th graders said they read a book, newspaper, or magazine every day that wasn't assigned for school. By 2016, only 16% did. Are you saying that a magazine is equivalent to like a deep metaphorical text? No, you're taking what we're doing and making it sound worse, and taking what you did and tried to make it look like the epitome of what a childhood is. And it does, and okay, I want to say this. Not books don't have all the deep critical thinking stuff. Plenty of movies have that, plenty of TV shows, plenty of videos, analysis. They all have the deep critical thinking. It's just the medium that's changing. The content is what matters, not the medium. There's plenty of movies based off of books and vice versa. Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, novel edition, stuff like that. Just because I'm reading it via a novel, it doesn't make the text any more complex than it was in the movie. The Truman Show, despite being a movie, is still a great, deep metaphorical look into what if you were always being watched. It raises moral questions like, uh, let's say Truman's wife, for example. That's a whole moral mess, really. He was sort of manipulated into marrying her. Like, that is not that great. So, this article also does address movies, however, but it's poorly done. I agree. Movies, great way to tell deeper stories, Truman Show and all that, but it has an emphasis with watching movies with friends, and you'll see movies with friends here. You'll go up and it'll talk about how people are going to see movies with friends considerably less when it's again failing to take into account necessity. Why would I waste my parents' time going to a cinema, waste my own time watching ads in the cinema, waste my money on tickets and concessions when I can already watch the movie through a service I already have? It makes no sense to waste money unless it's like a huge event. But since there's such a huge flow of big movies, typically nothing stands out. Like, what was the last big movie? Superman, Deadpool and Wolverine, which was like 2 years ago? Unless it feels like an event, I won't see myself going to theaters to watch it. And it's not even about discussion. Like, you have entire communities based off discussing different parts of films. Hell, I know a YouTube channel. It's completely dedicated to analyzing the Truman Show. I'm not sure if I can recall its name, but you can search up Truman Show theory. You would probably find them. And like, this emphasis on watching with friends, it shows the bias towards how she consumed media when she was a kid. It shows that she thinks that her way of consuming media was so much better, and that is the only way it should be consumed, and the new streaming platforms are now awful. So overall, I just want to sort of just talk about this and sort of break it down. It's the typical rhetoric you would see with, oh, the current generation sucks so much. And to prove that it's the typical rhetoric, I have compiled a list. It's from a really great website, the Pessimist Archive, and it'll show the reaction to books. Model youth cut his own head off. Novel reading is blamed for tragic death. By the way, this is from 1906. Comic book Blood and Thunder breeds juvenile crime. Wanted to be a hero. Adventures of a youth who read too much. He played detective, stole horses, and is charged with many other offenses. 1895. This has been going on forever. You really want to know when was the good old days? Jazz books blamed for youth suicides. Don't read in bed. Don't get your lessons while lying in bed, and don't do any other kind of reading in bed. Charles S. Fuvard advised high school students this morning. And you see how much hate there was for books, because truthfully, everything new is being hated on. This sort of rhetoric has existed for ages, that the good old days is probably just the Big Bang, probably before the Big Bang even. And you might be wonder, well, that's a one-off thing. Books books can take away from exercise. Exercise is what really matters. And now bicycles are being blamed for falling off in marriages. That's right. Even bicycles were being blamed for literally everything conceivable. Like, it is insane how much blame there are on bicycles. Like, genuinely. Let's read some of these headlines. And now the bicycles are being blamed for falling off in marriages. Ooh. Bicycles are nuances. 1891, let me point out. The last charge against the bicycle is that it injures the bookseller's trade. Yeah, that's right. Bicycles in 1895 were being blamed for taking away from reading time. And that really just shows how common this is. Something new comes along. It's corrupting the youth. Something new comes along. It's corrupting the youth. It's a cycle. It's constant. It's never ending. I wouldn't be surprised if Gen Alpha was saying that the generation after them was so much worse than what they had. Like, it's how Gen Z is hitting on Gen Alpha right now. It's like, it's a constant cycle. The bicycle girl. And yes, some of this was obviously founded in like sexism. And like, what are you gonna do, really? And obviously, bicycles are blamed for youth's insanity. You see, this sort of rhetoric is really common, and if I'm being honest, it's really sad. Every generation will say that their generation was the best, and that's just not true. because my generation is the best, not yours. I'm kidding, of course. But you see, it's this constant cycle of people fear mongering, trying to say that things are worse than they actually are, trying to make the way they grow up sound like the way to grow up, not just how they grew up. It's concerning. This article is really a biased piece of junk, if I'm being honest. I honestly don't like it. I feel like there may be some political motivation. An informed voter, I would not be surprised if she came out and blamed any political party winning on cell phones, you know? Like, it's really when anything new comes out, it's used as a scapegoat for problems that people don't want to address. It's used as a scapegoat for things that we should address but don't want to. So, let's see. And, like, at the same time, I feel like as time goes on, there'll be a new big thing, and then people will criticize that. And it's like a never ending cycle of that. And that is honestly concerning. I know I'm being a bit repetitive. This is a rant, but, like, still. Now, one final thing I wanted to talk about is this, which it basically says it's just a 2 hour limit a day. And again, like everyone will try to limit new stuff. And yeah, having limits, probably a good thing. But like 2 hours? I go to school. I need to be on like a laptop to do my work for more than 2 hours. Hell, I spent like 3 hours writing this, and that was all of my own fruition. Like, do you want me to give up my education? Do you want me to perform poorly academically because it's new? Like, honestly, this is just a piece of trash. It's pushing the whole fear mongering teens or addicts that need to be kept on a leash, and somehow took the least controversial topic, that being reading is good for you, and managed to miss the mark by comparing their generation and the way the author grew up and neglecting changing times necessity, as well as trying to push school assigned reading out of the way to make our generation better. Honestly, this article really could have benefited from some peer review from a more diverse cast of psychologists, because I only see stuff like this being made in echo chambers. The hypocrisy in this is so blunt, it's not even funny, to be fair. Um, so yeah, that's about it. Tell me, do you like it when I pick apart articles? Do you want me to do this again? Or is the sci-fi thing more attractive? I don't know. Uh, I guess keep watching and I'll keep you updated on to what I get on the test. Well, yeah, that's it. This is the part where you click off. I'm just going through my notes here. Okay, I'll just force you out. See ya.